Hey guys, Sierra Bailey here with Accel Commercial Real Estate. The video you're watching ties into our event in June, Accelerate. If you want to learn more about what you see today, scan the QR code on your screen or click the link in the description to get your tickets now before early bird pricing runs out. Enjoy the video.
When I was 6 years old, I was raised by a single mother, and I was listening to talk about your dad, and that's a blessing because my dad was not involved in my life. My mom had me when she was 16. My dad was 18 years old, and I had little or no relationship with my father. I never remember him telling me he loved me. He never came to a baseball game. I didn't have that experience, right? And my mom, when she was young, when she was only 16 years old, as she began to grow, she was working two jobs. So she used to take me down to the local baseball field where I would stay for hours and hours and hours. And I remember at 6 years old, I observed how coaches tended to other people's kids. I watched how a good coach helped a person reach their potential. And it was a female coach named Mickey Benson. It just happened to be that there was a female coach coaching Little League boys baseball. And she said to me when I was 6 years old, son, one of these days you're going to be a great coach. 6 years old. Now, the reason this is important because Jan asked me to talk about mindset. And my 17th book that's coming out in 2021 is called Flip the Switch, How to Activate the Prey Drive in You and Your Team. And it is about finding another gear in you. It is about driving your deepest human potential. It is about playing at a higher frequency. It is about doing something that you knew you're capable of doing. It is about manifesting your deepest human potential, which is just an idea of kinetic energy that is stored until utilized, right? So at 6 years old, I had a big revelation. So if you take notes, I want you to write this down because it's real important doing something big in the world. At 6 years old, I had a revelation. And the revelation was that everybody needs a good coach in their life. When you started on your real estate journey, did you have somebody mentoring you? Okay. and so the revelation I had is, man, everybody needs a good coach because I watched how a good coach helped another person reach their potential. Right? So fast forward, I hear this. My high school basketball coach called me a professor because I was always coaching and leading and guiding. And at 15 years old, I got a phone call from one of my elementary coaches and said, will you help me coach this junior pro basketball team? And I said, sure, I would love to. And I literally got dressed up in a suit and I went down and coached junior pro basketball. And I looked like a little Pat Riley coaching junior pro basketball, okay? And I was so passionate, right? And one good definition of passion is irresistible belief for motive or action. It's what drives your engines, what rows your boats, what gets you excited, what you talk about for days. 15 years old, I'm like, boom, this is what I'm supposed to do. Like I was very lucky to find my voice very early in life. And I like to joke and say at 15, I was so passionate and I couldn't control it that I got ejected from a junior pro basketball game, okay? You ever see somebody get 3 technicals at a junior pro game when he was 15? But I knew this is what I was supposed to do with my life. Now, why is this important? After you have a revelation, because of the revelation, that is some huge dramatic moment in your life. It changes everything, right? Because of the revelation, you now have a conviction. Can you sense my conviction? Yes or no? You can feel my conviction. You may think it's passion. It's not passion. It is conviction. It is conviction that with a good coach, you will play at a higher frequency. You will perform at a higher level. They will help you find your missing structures. Or they will help you change your mindset. They could be fixed or static or stuck. So at 15 years old, I started coaching basketball. I'm like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. So I got my first job at 18 years old coaching elementary basketball. And there was a sales stat that I read back in those days, and it was most sales happen on 7 to 15 touches. 80% of the time, most sales happen on 7 to 15 touches. I coach a lot of people, folks. Most people in today's world go 1 time or 2 times. Here's what I would tell you. If there's something you really want, and you truly have this revelation, and you do have a conviction, would you only go 1 or 2 times if you really wanted it? Yes or no? But that's what most people do, right? So to get my job at 18 years old, I actually showed up at the principal's office in the summer, 14 straight days. And on day 14, he said, kid, you got the job, right? And he said primarily because nobody else wants this job, all right? And so I'm coaching this elementary basketball team, and I have a belief. Every day with your current job is an interview for your next job. Every day in your current role is an interview for your next role. People are observing. They're watching. They're making judgments. They say if you make a bad first impression, it takes 21 positive interactions to overcome the first negative one. Here's the bad part. You're not going to get 21 more chances, right or wrong. Okay? So I coached that little team as if I was coaching in the NBA. And they paid me $199.50 for the year. But every day at my current job was an interview for what? My next job. Okay, so at 19 years old, I got a call from the head coach at Riverdale High School, which is the second largest high school in Tennessee at that time. And he said, I've been watching you, and you're this young little whippersnapper that can flat out coach. Will you come down to Riverdale, which is in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, and be one of my assistant coaches? And I asked what any good 19-year-old asks, which is what? I said, sir, I've only got one question. Exactly how much are you going to pay me to come down to Riverdale and be one of your assistant coaches? After all, I'm already making $199.50. And you may not be able to afford me, right? And he laughed and he said, kid, we're going to pay you $2,000. I'm like, $2,000? Man, I will be there tonight, right? Did I just 10 times my income, yes or no? I just 10 times my income. Okay, and we were doing so I was making $199.50. In the month of October, we did 1.3 million in my coaching business. And that would put us in the top 0.001% of coaches in the world. There's 700,000 people in the United States that call themselves a coach. The average income of those coaches is $47,000 a year. You do not want to get coaching advice about how to make money from somebody making $47,000 a year. Would you agree, yes or no? They need a demonstrated capacity to know how to do it. And what they need to know how to do is how to monetize a concept. Now, I'm telling you this because I was a high school basketball coach, making $24,700 a year from 21 to 25 or 26. I didn't think about money. I didn't know the difference between an asset and a liability. I like to say I didn't know the difference between an asset and a hole in the ground. You understand? I literally, at 31 years old, went to a bookstore and brought a book called How to Grow Your Financial IQ by Robert Kiyosaki. And that was when I learned the difference between assets and liabilities at 31. Now, let me tell you what's funny. The person that wrote that book is a woman named Sharon Lecter, and she and I are really good friends today. Who would know at 31 I would buy Rich Dad, Poor Dad, all the books, and she wrote those, and now she and I are doing events together. Isn't that the coolest thing in the world? And it come full circle, right? So I go down to Riverdale, and I'm like working a little muscle, and I made a couple rules. I never left before the head coach left. Okay? I've never met a lazy person of interest. I've never met a person that's done something big in the world that I would consider lazy. Everybody see that? So I made a couple rules. I would not leave until the head coach left. He stays at 8 o'clock, I stay at 8:15. He stays till 9 o'clock, I stay till 9:15. I get his bag, I get his water, I babysit his kids, I drive the bus. Because I started to cultivate really a dominant aspiration in my life, and I wanted to be a head coach. I'm like, man, this is what I want to do. I want to become a head coach. So at 22 years old, he retires, and I become the head coach. And that made me the youngest head coach in the state of Tennessee at the second largest high school. Now, I was studying under a person. How many of you think it's important that you pick someone and you study under them? You study mastery. Mastery looks like this. You study under a master, typically 5 to 7 years. You practice what you see the master do for a cycle of time, and then ultimately you become a master, and other people study your work. And that is a lost art in today's world. Would you agree? I had a person that wanted to intern for me from local college a few weeks ago, and he said, Coach, I can only work and intern for you from 3:30 to 4:30 on Monday, right, and an hour on Tuesday, and maybe a little bit on Wednesday. And I'm like, you kind of missed the concept of learning under somebody. If you can only do it for an hour on Monday and an hour on Tuesday, right, you're not really going to learn anything from it. Like, if you want to learn under me, then you need to work with me and be in close proximity to me. And so from 18 to 25, I studied one person. That one person was Dr. Stephen Covey. Covey wrote The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, Principle-Centered Leadership, First Things First, and he introduced me really to a big concept called the whole person theory. And he said people are made up of 4 parts: a body, a mind, a heart, and a spirit. Each of those parts produce different needs, different intelligences, different capacities, different dimensions. And you say, well, why does this matter? What good is it to have a lot of talent with no drive? How many of y'all know somebody that's real talented but real lazy? How many of you know somebody that's right, that has a lot of knowledge but no confidence? How many of you know somebody that has a lot of confidence with no skill? We would call that arrogance, okay? Here's a real estate term. That's where your market, that's where your self-appraisal is much higher than your market value. Okay? And I see a lot of people like that. It's like you really have to pay the price, you really don't know what you're doing, you really have to put the work in, but you want it to like magically happen, right? And so I start using the 7 habits of highly effective people coaching my kids. Now imagine you dropping your daughter off to me at 14 years old. And at 14 years old, your daughter's learning the 7 habits of highly effective people, principle-centered leadership, and first things first, and 5 disciplines of a learning organization, and the 5 dysfunctions of teams. Imagine your kid playing for me for 4 years, and she comes in with some knowledge, some skill, some desire, some confidence. And 4 years with me, she walks out as a stone-cold killing machine. Right? Now, does it matter who's coaching you, yes or no? Do you think one of the greatest advantages your kids could have is who is teaching your kids, yes or no? I don't want my kid to have a good teacher. I want her to have the best teacher. I don't want to have the best, a gymnastics teacher. I want her to have the best gymnastics teacher. Because I know that who's coaching my kids is more important than who the president of the United States is. Because they have more influence, more impact, right? And imagine you taking your kids and letting them, so this is the point. So around 25 years old, Jana gave me credit for a little too early. I didn't write the first book till I was 25. And around 25 years old, I'm coaching these kids, man, and when you come watch my kids play, they were like machines, like boom, 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 boom. And people constantly kept asking me, what are you doing with these kids? And I said, I don't have time to explain it, so I'm going to start writing books. So I started writing books, and when I wrote books, here's business people began to call me. And this is where we get into money. Because I had no concept of money. I'm making $24,700 a year. I'm working 80 hours a week, every week. I used to work 8 hours a day on Sunday. I would get up and go to church on Sunday morning, go straight to my office, and literally work for 8 hours on Sunday. That's how hard I worked for a decade. I wasn't married, didn't have any kids, barely had any friends. Because I was married to one thing. You know what that one thing was? Winning one of these. Being the best. Okay? And I gave almost everything in my life to be the best. From 20 to 30. From 19 to 31, really. So at 25 years old, I write this book called Changing Lives Through Coaching. And I wrote it for coaches, but guess what? Coaches wouldn't buy it. Matter of fact, we don't even sell that book today. Mainly because it sucked. Your first book's going to suck too, right? Which is why I have about 17 more. Now, here's the point. I didn't have a lot to say at 25, but I wrote the books, one of the best things I ever did. We now have a publishing division of my company that is writing 8 books a month for people. 200 million Americans say they have a book in them. That's 81% of Americans say they have a book that they want to write. I believe if life's worth living, it's worth writing down. You say, why is that important? Because when I wrote that book, it started my little journey to becoming a person of interest. Now I wasn't just a high school basketball coach. I'm a high school basketball coach and an author. Everybody see that? How many other high school coaches you think have their own book? None of them. So it began to separate me from the group. And so I began to get these speaking engagements. People would call and say, hey, we see you're one of these great coaches and great motivators. Will you come over and speak to our team? And I said, I don't really have time. Thanks for asking, but I'm coaching these kids and I love these kids and I appreciate the invite. But I really am trying to win championships. That's my sole focus right now. And Dell Computers called me and said, man, we got to hold your book. We want you to come over and coach or speak to our managers. And I went over and spoke to their managers. And I did an hour. And I said, thank you. I got to go back and coach my kids. And the guy said, well, you come back. We really enjoyed it. And I'm like, I appreciate you. Thank you for buying my little book. But I really want to get back to these kids because I love these kids. I'm trying to win championships. Now, thank you. I'm not trying to be rude. He said, are you sure? And I said, sir, I'm not trying to be rude. Thank you for inviting me. But I got to get back to Coach kids. He reached in his pocket and he pulled out a check. And I opened up that check and it was more in an hour than I made in a month. What do you think I said then? I said, surely somebody else will love these kids as much as I do. I know somebody will come along and love them kids like I do, right? But it was a revelation for me. So first you have a revelation. Because of the revelation, I now have a conviction. Because of my conviction, I am now willing to do whatever it takes. I'm now willing to take an action. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. First, I have a revelation. Because of the revelation, I now have a conviction. Because of the conviction, I now am willing to take an action. So that day, at 25 years old, here's what I figured out. Somebody would pay me 10 times the amount of money for my skill in an hour that I was making in 80 hours a week. Everybody see that? So I started asking myself, what skill do I have? Right? And I wrote about this in a book called Single Digit Millionaire. Okay, because you say, well, why would you say single digit millionaire? Wouldn't you want to be a double digit millionaire? Well, to be a double digit millionaire, you first got to be what? Single digit millionaire. Do you know how many people in the United States will become single digit millionaires? That means your net worth is between $1 and $10 million. How many people do you think? You're in the real estate business? Yeah. What percentage of people do you think in America will actually become single digit millionaires?
23%.
Okay, that's a good number. That's probably a high number, I would think.
Yeah.
Most small businesses, 96% of small businesses will never break $1 million of revenue. Where's my count at in the room? Right there. Yeah. That means less than 4% of small businesses will ever break $1 million of revenue. Now, what's the likelihood you're going to become a millionaire if your business don't even produce $1 million? Everybody see that? If you ever watch Shark Tank on a Friday night or Saturday night, and now it's on every night on CNBC, when they are pitching those businesses and they're asking people, would you like to invest? As soon as they say, well, how much did you do in sales? And as soon as that person said, oh, we did 1.4 million, what do those sharks do? Now I'm interested. Why? What if they say we did 3 million in sales? What if we did 10 million in sales? See, now those sharks know something. They know that only 4% of small businesses will ever break $1 million of revenue. So if they've got a business doing 4 million or 5 million or even 1 million, they're interested all of a sudden. Oh, I didn't like your idea. I didn't like your idea. Oh, hold on a second. You're doing 1.3 million? I'm interested. Everybody see that? So I started asking, what skill do I have? And in that book, I talk about building a primary skill. Okay. Now, I didn't get to hear the first part of your talk. Where did most of your money come from for your first investments?
Mortgage business. I was in the mortgage business for 18 years.
Yeah.
So I was single like you, working 60, 80 hours a week.
Yep.
Putting it aside, living frugal. I've always lived frugal within my means.
Now, what would you say was your number one skill when you were doing the mortgages? Was it ability to connect to people? Was it ability to overcome an objection? What would you say your hard skill was?
My superpower was building relationships and getting deals in the door.
Okay, now to really generate money, okay, because the money I invest in real estate today comes from my coaching business. Everybody see that? The reason I have excess cash to reinvest in real estate is because of the primary skill that I developed from 20 to 30 years old, which was a hard skill of coaching people, guess what? Through the whole person theory. Now, where did I learn that? From 18 to 25 studying coding. Everybody see that? From 20 to 30, what I was really doing was refining a skill and getting better, coaching people from all walks of life, all socioeconomic backgrounds. Understand what I'm saying? And I'm learning how to activate the prey drive in a person. I'm learning how to get a person to play at a higher level. Little did I know companies and corporations would pay me a whole lot more money for that skill. Everybody see that? So it looked like over here, man, this dude's making $24,000 a year as a high school basketball coach. But what I was really doing was refining a primary skill. And in my opinion, when I wrote that book, Single Digit Millionaire, the way you begin to accumulate money is you first have a very hard primary skill, right? And that skill solves a problem for another person. Money changes hands when problems are solved. The bigger the problem, the more money people will pay to solve that problem. Does that make sense?
Thanks for watching this video. If you like what you see, be sure to follow our Generational Wealth Learning series. On select Thursdays, we offer cutting-edge industry information that would normally cost thousands of dollars. And the best part, our education is absolutely free. If you register through our events page, you can join us live, either in person or over Zoom. In the meantime, like this video, comment down below, and subscribe to our channel so you never miss a beat.